first time now. It's a moment of great majesty. It's a uniquely American moment that will play out here over the next couple of hours.
John Boehner, perhaps the happiest ever former member of Congress and former Speaker of the House. Toward the end, just couldn't wait to get out of there, couldn't wait to get out of the job that he hadn't necessarily dreamed of as a young boy in Ohio.
His first words after resigning as Speaker of the House, talking about sort of voluntarily giving up power there with his raucous Republican caucus in the House no longer willing to keep him in power. His first words after he announced his resignation were, and I quote, zippity-doo-dah. Yeah. And he sang that song and walked away from the microphone. And he hasn't disappeared from public life. It's interesting to see that he came back for this inauguration. He was certainly no vocal supporter of Mr. Trump's during the campaign, but the Republican Party has certainly dropped all signs of its never Trump schism, which happened during the campaign. The Republican Party has 100% coalesced behind the president-elect, soon to be the president. And what transfixed us for a year, which was the question of whether or not the Republican Party could elevate somebody like Trump, somebody who so recently was a Democrat.
Capitol Hill, Michael, we're going to have 3 former presidents today. It looks like, of course, a lot of us are thinking of President Bush 41 and Barbara Bush, both of whom prayers and thoughts have been fighting illness out in Texas. Jimmy Carter was photographed on a Delta flight last night, Atlanta to Washington. A, in coach, and B, greeting everyone on the plane.
And there were 2 former vice presidents, Dick Cheney and Dan Quayle.
At the age of 92. Michael, your other thoughts as you approach today, what's going to be in your... Members of the court led by Chief Justice Roberts. We're expecting the Clintons any moment. The court is the object of so much interest and talk and fascination. We tend to be struck dumb and just take in the visual aspects when we are allowed to see members of the court.
Justice Breyer is holding a Ziploc bag.
He is holding a Ziploc bag with what appear to be all of his worldly belongings.
It's a good-looking hat, though.
No, I think he's ready for Merchant of Venice here with that hat.
Oh, judges, even when judges are dressed normally, are dressed weird. I mean, they wear robes.
Remember the chevrons? Remember the chevrons on Rehnquist's sleeves?
Rehnquist got his chevrons, operatic stripes put on.
It's hard to accessorize.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg does it better than any of them. She always has.
It's remarkable to think about Jimmy Carter when you see 92 years old, 40 years ago on this day, inaugurated the 39th president of the United States. And you look at the dais up there, and you have figures Hillary Clinton, John McCain, who have to sit and watch this and think powerfully, what if their moment in history, they aspire for this office, but also future contenders for the office. You saw Cory Booker. There's more than a few members of the Senate, a few governors up there, the Democratic Party, I think, that are watching this program unfold today, thinking this could be me someday. And what's true about American politics in the perpetual campaign cycle is the next campaign will begin very shortly, if it hasn't already begun. And what's true about American politics in the perpetual campaign cycle is the next campaign will begin very shortly, if it hasn't already begun in some of the planning and the plotting that takes place.
You know, Fitzgerald said there's no second chapters in American life, and there are. Jimmy Carter, Donald Trump, we keep having new chapters in this country. And I was on a plane with Carter when we lost back in '80, and I was a Marine One when we lost. It was talk about going through the experience of being taken for the White House by the American people and still standing up tall and living the rest of your life doing good work.
Dr. Biden and Mrs. Pence being led to their particular vehicles in this motorcade. Every armored Cadillac that has come off an assembly line in the past 10 years is being mustered for today. As we go on through the day, car buffs look at the thickness of the doors. It usually takes 1 to 2 people to simply swing them open. Very difficult, if not impossible, to open.
Here we go.
Here are the First Ladies.
Oh, my God. Ralph Lauren is having a big day today, Brian.
Absolutely.
That's his creation.
Melania Trump is the first ever immigrant First Lady of the United States. She is the second First Lady of the United States born outside of the United States. The last one was from the 1700s. John Adams' wife was born in London. We've never before had a First Lady born outside the United States. She speaks 5 languages. She's had a distinguished career of her own.
Well, Joe Biden, after the ceremony today, we're told is going to get on Amtrak and go back to Delaware.
Right home to Delaware.
Real Mr. Smith stuff. That's great.
Which he did every day in the Senate.
The Amtrak station in Wilmington, Delaware is now named after Joe Biden.
Really?
It is, yeah.
And watching Joe Biden on Amtrak is a sight to behold. I don't think there is an employee he does not know
Absolutely.
on a name basis.
There are a few passengers he doesn't, regular passengers he doesn't know, because to ride on Amtrak with Joe Biden was to just watch him talking to everybody.
I suspect he will not be in the quiet car.
His biggest secret all these years is he loves to ride up front in the cab, and because of 2 things, old windshields and the propensity of little kids to throw rocks, you have to wear facial covering while up in the cab. And here are the presidents.
Look at this. Now, who's taller? I mean, they're about the same, it looks to me, I'd say. Maybe Trump. Maybe. But why doesn't Trump button his coat? That would be a sign of formality, wouldn't it?
As we watched the President of the United States leave the White House for the last time, you saw the Commander-in-Chief return the salute of the Marine sentries there. And soon it would be Donald Trump who is returning the salute, so all the formalities of the office begin to come into play now. Donald Trump, for the first time now, climbing into a vehicle adorned with the seal of the President of the United States, flying the flag of the President of the United States as he assumes the trappings of power over the next hour.
At the same time that the president-elect is seated in the car, at the same time the current president took his last step on the 18-acre grounds of the White House as president, we see the woman who tried mightily to get elected president, winning the popular vote, failing to win the electoral vote, with her husband, the 2-term Democratic president, arriving to take their seats in the Capitol. Visuals like this are what we talk about when we talk about Inauguration Day, as the car pulls from the portico to begin the long drive down to Capitol Hill.
Do we think Trump would have taken it so stoically if he had won the popular vote by 3 million votes?
I suspect not.
I suspect not. You know, that was an amazing split-screen visual. You watch the Obamas leave the White House for the last time, and I keep reminding myself, of course, they would have preferred that Hillary Clinton succeed Barack Obama rather than Donald Trump. But they had their 8 years. You know, they had the full ride, the fullest possible ride you could have in the White House. And there's a certain amount of relief, I think, and freedom that comes with the end of an 8-year term.
You mean the Obamas?
For the Obamas, yes.
Yeah, I remember as a kid watching Kennedy take the oath and feeling a bit sorry for old Eisenhower, the great war hero and war leader. And I said, and my dad said to me, a bit more wise than me at the time I was a kid, he said, don't feel sorry for him. This is the happiest day of his life.
Well,
he no longer has to worry about nuclear war. It's on the kids' shoulders now.
As the limousine New Today pulls out over the security lid in the White House, we see President Bush 43 and Laura Bush. They made the trip from Texas after he was assured that his mom and dad were on the mend and going to be okay. They remain in Methodist Hospital in Houston.
President Bush disappeared from public life very deliberately after he left office. He nothing to say about what President Obama was doing, whether it was right or wrong. One wonders if President Obama will do the same. It sounded from his farewell address as if, and his press conference, as if we might hear from him. We might hear from him often.
As you think about the 44th President of the United States coming down Pennsylvania Avenue now for this last ride with a 60% approval rating, leaving office as popular as any president in the modern era, and I think the American people very fond of this president personally. May not agree with all of his policies, but the dignity, the decorum, the intelligence that he served the country well for 8 years as a representative of the people of the United States in that office.
Joy Reid joins our conversation. Joy, as we were just saying, the president has taken his last step on the White House grounds as president. Now you see the motorcade going down to the Capitol.
Yeah, I'll echo those comments about President Obama. And you have to remember that the level of vilification that this president came into office with, I can still recall viscerally how hated and vilified and mistaken he was, sort of de-Americanized. And for him to now leave office, incredibly popular. I've heard, the sort of adoration of him among Democrats alike into the way a lot of Republicans feel about Ronald Reagan. I think that he is he's popular not just with Democrats, he's popular with a lot of conservatives just for the way that he comported himself. No personal scandals. You compare that to something like 67 members of the Nixon administration eventually indicted. Even Carter was a good and erect man. And he didn't. And I think that he made Black America immensely proud. When I got out of...
People who are seen lining the street are there officially. That's why they're saluting. You see people who are being paid to be there. But the numbers of people on the streets, as you can see, they're behind the barricades. There's just not a lot going on.
Yeah,
there are a lot of
frozen
people,
zone there.
There are a lot of people tweeting pictures of the metros. And if you recall, 2008, I left my cousin's house in Maryland 5:15 in the morning, and the metros were jammed. You could barely move through the streets of Washington. It's amazing the pictures that people are tweeting out about how empty the metros are, and it is really a sparse crowd.
Well, one reason is...
It's hard to see. I mean, there's a zone between the
No, I know. I mean, it just...
lineup and, yeah.
With a massive miniaturization of our time, there is what appears to be a Ford Econoline van that is supplying with a massive television camera on the roof, supplying these pictures. As the Clintons come in to applause down the blue carpet, greeting friends on their way to their seats, we have Bill Clinton's biographer, David Marinis, longtime Washington Post journalist, standing by to talk to us. And David, as they greet the Carters and find their seats, your view of their place in history as of right now, post her campaign?
Well, it's not what they thought it would be, obviously. They thought this would be a restoration or a resurrection of some sort. As Michael Beschloss said, they've been around our politics longer than any couple in modern American history. And I think that Bill Clinton, in particular, after he served his 2 terms, he said he would like to be president again. So this was about as close as they might have come to it. And they didn't get there. And I think that it hurts, in many ways, him as much as Hillary Clinton, in the sense that he really thought this would be their restoration this time. Since they met in 1971 at Yale Law School, it's what drives them, it's what feeds them. I think we have to worry somewhat about Bill Clinton's physical health, but as long as he's healthy, I think they'll be part of the action.
We watch on the right-hand side the motorcade, and now former President Bush, former First Lady Laura Bush are being introduced, and they will come down and take their seats. While David was talking, we saw New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, among others. Boy, he certainly thought today would be different, certainly thought he would be transitioning into a high-profile role with this new administration. It was not to be.
Michigan Governor Rick Snyder there. We've seen actually a bunch of Republican governors since you've been here. Reminder about how the two parties have changed in the Obama era. I mean, in a way, the Democratic Party held at the top in terms of the esteem with which Barack Obama is held and the sky-high approval ratings he's leaving office with. It held at the top, but it fell apart beneath him in terms of Democratic reach in Congress and in the states. The Republican Party held in the states and its reach in Congress, but it's unrecognizable at the top in terms of this president-elect. He has consolidated Republican support around him, but I think even 2 years ago, if you'd asked anybody in the Republican Party to envision who they would next put in the White House, they couldn't have sketched Donald Trump, let alone named him.
Yeah, Rachel, I just saw a warm embrace that W gave to the Supreme Court justices, especially the Republican one. I realized why he embraced them. They put him in office. John Roberts, I know you got
We call them
Larry's constituency voters.
that was gratitude.
Their warm embrace for him was called Bush v. Gore. You see all the hands on doors waiting for the signal to open the limousine doors. All the cars you saw filled at the White House have now arrived in order. There's Mrs. Obama and there's Mrs. Trump as they get out. Protected from the rain underneath the portico for the most part, make their way inside. Today is also about holding rooms. If you're one of the bold-faced names at something like this, there's a number of them with beverages and places to rest and relax. That's the other thing. The Obamas have now been around the machinery of the White House and the presidency for so long. Folks who've taken care of their family on the inside, where the aides and ushers, you see the president-elect there, stay for years and years and years. It's a time of goodbyes. Just going to watch some of these pictures go by. President-elect.
Ladies and gentlemen, the children of Vice President-elect Pence.